guys, it's Tori and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing a book recommendation video. I have never filmed one of these before, like based on like a trope. So today we are going to be talking enemies to lovers. I have 10 books here to show you guys. I definitely feel like I'm missing some, but when I was looking through my Goodreads, these are the only ones that I could really think of. And like some of these are part of series, so there are like other books in the series that are also enemies to lovers, but I didn't want to do too many from the same series, if that makes sense. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So I have one romance and the rest are romantasy, and most of these are like all-time favorite books for me, so I'm really excited to just talk to you about them, let you know which books are enemies to lovers, so if you are looking for some recommendations for that trope, these are going to be perfect for you. But with all that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my face. Check out all my socials down below, including my Goodreads and my Amazon book wish list, and let's get into the enemies to lovers book recommendations. Alright, to start off, I am going to talk about the only romance that came to my mind. There are some like romances that are like rivals to lovers and stuff, but like not straight enemies to lovers, you know what I mean? Like enemies to lovers to me is like literally hatred and then they're fall in love, you know what I mean? So the one that came to mind for me for the romance genre was Icebreaker. This is by Hannah Grace. This is the Maple Hills series. This book is literally so good. I love it so much. This is about Anastasia and I think his name's Nate. Yes, Anastasia and Nate, and basically she's an ice skater, he's a hockey player. His like ice skating rink for his team gets ruined because of something that happens to one of the guys on the team, and so then they have to share the ice skaters rink for like the whole season and like split practice and stuff. And so she like really doesn't like him. She's so mad at him because he's the captain of the hockey team, and she's like, this is your fault, like middle finger basically. And they just end up getting along very well, and things just kind of sparks start to fly, and it's just live, laugh, love. It's so fucking cute. I love this series so much. I've read this one and the second one, and I cannot wait to get into the rest of the series. It's so good so far. So if you love a spicy enemies to lovers college sports romance or hockey romance, this is the way to go. And he is very like golden retriever. It's very like grumpy sunshine, but in reverse. I love this series so much. It's so good. Such a good book for an enemies to lovers. It's just so wholesome but spicy, and I just love it so much. Now we have a few YA romantasies that I want to discuss. So starting off so strong, we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I just kind of mean this whole trilogy in general for this recommendation, specifically The Ballad of Never After, which is the second one, but I figured I would just show this one to start. So basically this series is about Evangeline, and she is so in love with this one guy, and basically he ends up getting engaged to somebody else, and he's gonna end up marrying her. She ends up going to the church, and she ends up like asking one of the fates to help her, and this fate's name is Jackson. He's the Prince of Hearts, and so she basically bargains with him and says, please do anything just to stop this wedding, like he's the love of my life, blah 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 blah. So he does as she asks, but not in the way that she was hoping he would. But he kind of does it in like a sneaky way, and she's like, oh my god, this is not what I wanted. And so she tries to reverse it, and it just becomes this whole thing. And basically she ends up going on this like whole like conquest to like another side of the continent, and it's just this whole thing. And it's so good. I just did a terrible job of trying to explain this book, but I highly recommend this trilogy. It's so good. A 5-star trilogy for sure. Highly recommend. It's just very like fairy tale-esque. Like it just gives you like Once Upon a Time vibes. It's so good. Highly recommend this series. It's closed door, super YA, super quick, easy read. It's so good. This next one just might be one of the best representations of enemies to lovers in this whole video that I'm about to discuss. So the next recommendation is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book is so good. very back and forth opinions on it, because if you watched some of my end of year videos, like my end of year book tag and stuff, I said that I thought this book was kind of overhyped, and I still think I stick by that. I definitely need to reread it before the second book comes out, because I think that I might have just been like in a little bit of a slump when I read it, and so like I didn't pick up on as many things that other people love so much about it. And I also feel like this is the type of book that you need to annotate, because there's so many just like little bantery moments. But basically this is about Peyton, and she is an ordinary, which basically means that she has absolutely no powers. And the king of like wherever they live, he wants to kill all ordinaries. So he has like his son, who's one of the princes. He's an elite. His job is to be the enforcer, and basically the enforcer is the person who goes and kills all of the ordinaries. Well, Peyton is an ordinary, and she ends up saving Kai's life, and then they have these trials, and since Peyton like saved his life, they end up putting her into these trials, but nobody knows that she's an ordinary. Everybody thinks that she's an elite who has some type of power. And so basically they're like in these trials trying to survive, and Peyton and Kai end up having the best enemies to lovers. It's so good. I highly recommend, because literally he is the thing that she is supposed to like pretend to be, and she's the thing that he's supposed to kill. Like, it's literally his job to kill all ordinaries, and it's so good. I highly recommend. The quotes in this book are out of this world. Like, oh my god, so good. I literally have 2 versions of this book, and I cannot wait for the second one to come out. I definitely want to do a reread of this book. I highly recommend giving this a go if you have not read it already. It's so widely talked about on this, like on social media, and for such good reason. It's super good. Highly recommend. This next one is the last YA recommendation I have, and that is going to be Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is more like workplace rivals to lovers. It's a little bit enemies to lovers, because like they're rivals for sure, and it's just amazing. So basically this book is about Iris and Roman, and basically they both work at the same newspaper called the Gazette, and they are both fighting for the same like promotion. So eventually something terrible happens to Iris, and she decides that she's going to quit her job and go to the war front and being a reporter for the war. And she also in the process has been writing these letters to her brother Forrest, and eventually she gets a response, and the person is like, this isn't Forrest. And she and this other person end up corresponding with each other, and they have like magical typewriters. And come to find out, Roman is the person who is responding to her, and he knows that, but she has no idea. And it's just so good. He ends up following her out on the war front, and then it just goes from there. They end up falling in love, and it's perfect. It's amazing. So good. I highly recommend. The second one just came out, and I just finished it a few weeks ago, and it was pretty good, but the first one still has my heart. This book is a 6-star read. I highly recommend. It's beautiful, stunning, everything you could possibly ask for and more. Alright, the rest of my recommendations are all more adult fantasy in my personal opinion. They have some like smut and stuff in them. I have absolutely no idea what I was saying in the last clip, because I got a phone call and now I have no recollection of what I was talking about. But we're just gonna hop right into the next recommendation. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book literally absolutely blew up last year. Like, it was just everywhere, and for good reason. I love this book so much. But the amount of like traction that this author and this book got last year is literally mentally insane. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a book blow up like that in my years of being on like Book Talk and BookTube. Like, it was just mental. So basically this book, in my personal opinion, is if like Divergent and Harry Potter had a baby. And I know that makes absolutely no sense to anybody but me, but I feel like with Divergent, it's like the Dauntless training and stuff. And then I say Harry Potter only because there is like magic in it, and also because they are like in this like big school thing, and that's the only reason I say Harry Potter at all, because like it's also kind of cozy. So that's just a personal opinion. But anyways, very high stakes. So basically this book is about Violet, and Violet is this like little itty bitty fragile thing. She's always had a lot of health issues growing up, and so she has been training her whole life to be going into the scribe quadrant. So the scribe quadrant is kind of just like the really smart intellectual people, and so she's been training her whole life to go into that. And then 6 months before the parapet thing, her mother is basically like, actually, you're gonna be going into the writer's quadrant. You don't have a choice. This is what you're doing, and you're gonna just figure it out. So she ends up training for only like a few months to go into the writer's quadrant. The writer's quadrant is basically like the army and the military of this whole storyline. So her whole life she's been just reading books and studying how to be super intellectual, and then all of a sudden her mom's like, actually, we're gonna put you to the death test and you're gonna do this. So her mom is like the cadet or the general or something, and so that's kind of why her mom like forces her to do this, I think. Anyways, so then she has all of this like training and tests and like fights and all this stuff to train her to make it through the writer's quadrant. And the final test is basically you have to like bond with a dragon, and then you and this dragon are like together for life basically. So the reason I say enemies to lovers is because there is one specific very charming, handsome, deep, dark, mysterious character, and him and Violet go together like PB and J. Let me tell you, oh my god, are they freaking perfect together. The ending of this book, soul shattering. Oh my god, so good. I think I read this in like a 24-hour period. Like I literally sped through it. It's so good. Highly recommend. The couple in here is out of this fucking world. Literally love it so much. I love the male MC. Oh my god, he's delicious. And I just highly recommend this book. So this next one I'm going to give absolutely zero context on, because if you haven't read the series you aren't going to understand, and I want to give absolutely no spoilers. But an enemies to lovers romance within a series, specifically this book, Airfire by SJM. This is part of the Throne of Glass series. This is, in my opinion, the 4th book, because I read Assassin's Blade first, and I stick by my statement if that's the way you should read it, whatever anybody else says. But this book, enemies to lovers, no context, telling you absolutely nothing else. This series is literally my world at this point, my everything. Highly freaking recommend. Please read Throne of Glass. That's it. That's all you get. More SJM. We have A Court of Thorns and Roses. This book / series is about Feyre, and basically Feyre and her family are in poverty and they're like basically starving to death. And so Feyre is kind of like the provider for her family. So she goes out and she hunts, and she ends up killing this wolf. Well, the wolf is really a fairy. And so this big bad fairy lord man comes and takes Feyre away to Prythian, which is like the Fey world of this book. I don't really know how to explain it. And basically her and him really hit it off, and things just like end up going from enemies to lovers. And then moving on, we have the 2nd book in the series, which is way more enemies to lovers than the 1st book. Oh my god. Speechless. The things that happen in this book are out of this fucking world, and it's just amazing. So these 2 books are both enemies to lovers, but in completely different ways. Highly recommend, if you have not read this series, to jump on into it. It's so good. I can't really say too much because I don't want to like ruin anything for anybody, but the ACOTAR series is amazing. Enemies to Lovers, highly recommend. Lastly, we're going to be talking about one more series, and I've only read the first book and the novella in this series. I haven't gotten to the second book yet, but from what I've heard, there's going to be a lot more books in the series, which makes me super excited because I loved it so much. So we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is the Crowns of Nyxia series. This is the first book. So basically, this one is like Hunger Games, but with vampires. So good. Highly recommend. It is a human who falls in love with a vampire. So like imagine Enemies to Lovers, because like literally vampires want to kill humans and eat them, and she ends up falling in love with one. Absolutely freaking crazy. So I say Hunger Games because they basically end up doing a Hunger Games to please their gods, and if they win, they get like a wish granted basically. So this is so good. She is also the daughter of the vampire king. Like what? Well, like please, what? So good. Very spicy. Definitely adult. It's like not YA at all. It's not closed door. It's a little bit graphic for some of the like fighting and death scenes that go on in this book. So please beware of that. Like if you are under the age of, I would probably say 18, I wouldn't recommend this book, but that's just a personal opinion. They do have these books on KU, which I'm a KU girly. I will read anything on my Kindle that I can get my grimy little hands on, but I highly recommend. This is so good. It follows the character Aurea and Rain. That's how I pronounce it. It might be Ryan. I don't really know how you pronounce the names in this because they're a little funky, but highly recommend. So good. And then I also have the novella for that series. So this is about two different characters, but it's like in the same world. These characters are supposed to be like major in the second book, which I haven't gotten to yet. But this is about Lilith, and she basically is super sick and has this like disease, and like everyone in her city is like dying because the gods basically cursed them. And so she ends up going to this vampire and offering him a bargain for in exchange for his blood, because she thinks that she can come up with a cure using vampire blood. And basically Lilith, this human who is dying, falls in love with an immortal vampire, and it's amazing. Honestly, probably one of the best novellas I have ever read. It's super good. It's under 200 pages, super quick, easy read. Highly recommend if you have not read this series, Crowns of Nyxia. Super good. Highly recommend. Okay, so that is my 10 Enemies to Lovers recommendations. I probably have more somewhere in my collection that I haven't gotten to yet, or that I just like kind of forgot about, but those are my top recommendations for the trope. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've never filmed a video like this before, so please let me know down below what you thought. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my face. Check out all my socials down below, including my Goodreads and my Amazon book wish list, and I will see you guys in my next video. I love you all to the moon and Saturn, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!